Alright, so welcome back to Tidal Blades, Heroes of the Reef. Okay, so for this video we're going to start talking about how the dice system works, how you're going to be rolling dice and fighting monsters, maybe even, but we're going to start with challenges, how rolling the dice works for challenges. Now you'll notice we have 4 8-sided dice here, and this blue one here is basically the invasion dice. You see, at the end of a round, when you fight a monster, if you didn't fight any... At the end of the round, the monsters are going to attack during the night phase. They come and they attack the town. And you're going to roll this dice, and depending on the number, it will depend on which monster is going to attack. And if you're the player who didn't attack that particular monster, you're going to lose something. Maybe a dice, something. You're going to lose something, though. So it's something you don't want to happen, obviously, but it's going to happen most likely to somebody, for sure. And that's what you're going to roll. So that's just for that one occasion during the night phase that you're going to use it. So that means you're going to basically use it 4 times in the game only. Now, you'll notice we also have a white dice, a yellow dice, and a red dice here. In the first round, you will have this white dice that you'll be using, okay? In the second round and third round, so as soon as the second round starts, instead of rolling this dice, this white one, you're going to be rolling this yellow dice instead. And then when you get to the fourth round, you'll be rolling the red dice. Now these are basically like danger dice, okay? If you roll a blank side, you don't have to worry about anything. But if you get one of these X's, you're going to receive a blow, an injury, something like that. And unless you have some shells to block something, block the damage, if you will, you're going to end up having to take a dice out of the roll. So, for instance, if I was to roll 3 dice, 3 novice dice, and I rolled this white dice, and I rolled this X here, and I didn't have any shells, well, I would have to remove one of the dice that I rolled from the roll, meaning that now I can't use it anymore. I won't be able to use it for the next roll if I still need to roll dice. And if I keep getting X's, obviously I'm eventually not going to have any dice that I can roll, and that's going to just end things. Now that actually hasn't happened to me yet, because regardless of which character I was playing as, I always had plenty of shells available. So that shouldn't be an issue. But there is another benefit to using these shells to block possible damage from these danger dice here, okay? When you use a shell to block a damage from a danger dice in a roll, whether it's a challenge or whether you're fighting a monster, you're going to put the shell here on this card here. Everybody is going to start with this, and this is one of your character cards. Everyone is going to have what is called a shell shield, and they're going to put that shell on this shell shield. And then depending on your shells, depends on what you can do with them. And you can only utilize the shells that are on your shell shield. But here's the abilities. Obviously, you can move one shell you own onto the shield to block one X. So, here's an X. So, it says it right there. You can block basically one of these X's when you roll it. And it says it right on the card. That's one of the things that this shield will do. Another thing that this shell shield will do is you can spend 4 shells. So once there's 4 shells on your shell shield, you can spend 4 of them from the shell to set a die to any face. So if you haven't been rolling the dice side that you need, you can pick one up and move it to any spot you want. Now, these question marks are wild. They're considered wild, which means they will work for any side of the dice you need. So if the symbol isn't on the dice that you need, because sometimes, not these novice dice, but some of the other dice, the initiate dice, not all of them will have all of the symbols, but if you roll wild, then you can utilize it anyways, because it's a wild symbol. It works for any of the symbols. So that's pretty cool. But yes, you can move it. You can roll the dice, and if it's not something you need, you can pay 4 shells, basically, to change the side of the dice that it's sitting on. So that's really cool, or obviously the face that you're looking at. So that's another thing you can do. Another thing you can do is once you get 6 shells on the shield, you can actually refresh 2 dice. You can spend 6 to refresh 2 of your dice. So that's useful. Very, for sure. I use both of these abilities. They're both very useful. But, and that's another thing you'll definitely want to do. You'll definitely want to do one of these at some point, because you'll notice that it also has a maximum of 6 shells at the end of turn. So while you're attacking monsters and while you're competing in a challenge, if you get more than 6 shells onto your shell shield, don't worry about it, because they won't be removed until the end of your turn. And so then at the end of your turn, or say after the challenge is done, you can spend some of them, especially if you have more than 6 on here, you can spend some of them to do one of these 2 things. Maybe you still needed that, you needed to set that dice to a different face, or maybe you do need to refresh a couple of dice. So you'll be utilizing your shell shield. This is an awesome thing. I absolutely love the shell shield. It's extremely useful, and it makes... sometimes I almost wish I would get the X's more often so I could put more shells on my shell shield and refresh dice more often. Of course, that's contingent on actually having a lot of shells as well. So you'll definitely want to have a few shells around. But don't worry. If you face a monster, going to the monster location, there's 2 worker placements there. One has 3 shells on it, and the other one has 2 shells on it. So before you fight a monster, you're going to get a benefit of either 3 shells or 2 shells. So that's cool. But still, that is awesome, and that's how the shell shield is going to work. Now, let's talk about the rolling part. Okay, so let's grab a challenge card, just a random one. Okay, so this one is the Tangling Platform. It's for Lamara Stadium. So if I'm at Lamara Stadium, so if my guy Cayman here is at Lamara Stadium, and I have this Tangling Platform Challenge, I can compete in the Tangling Platform Challenge, and then obviously I'm going to need these 2 symbols to complete it, or this symbol here to complete it, and obviously if I want to get an extra one on focus, then I can also try to do that one as well. So if my focus is only 1, then I can only use 1 of my dice in the roll. And then obviously there's going to be the danger dice in the equation as well. Or that's the other one, so let's use the white one. Now the difference is the red and yellow dice, they also increase the possibility of you receiving more damage. So the yellow dice has 1 with 2 X's on it, and obviously the red dice is going to have more than just 1 side of the dice that has 2 X's on it. So that's why it's more dangerous as you play the game. These danger dice will get obviously more dangerous as you play. So then obviously I'd either have to have a fruit, obviously, so I have an extra fruit here, so I will munch on this fruit. He's going to eat the fruit because he's hungry. And so now, since I have another dice sitting here on my active dice, I can add this to the roll, and then we will roll the dice and see what symbols we get. Okay, well, you'll notice that both of the symbols are this, which isn't this. So you're probably thinking, did I just fail the challenge? No. Also, you'll notice the danger dice was on the blank side, which means nothing happens, which means I am free, once again, to continue rolling. So let's roll again and try to complete this challenge. Okay, well, I did get the X this time. So because I got the X, I need to take care of the X first. Luckily, I have a shell here, so I will put it onto my shell shield. Okay. Also, you'll notice that I did not roll any of the symbols again. But you know what? I can continue competing in this challenge. So let's roll again. Did I get the symbols I needed? No, I did not. And look, I got another X. But luckily, I have another shell here, so we'll just simply put it on the shell shield. There's no limit to how long this will take. As long as you have dice to roll and shells to basically put on your shell shield, there is literally no end to this, completing this challenge, until you get your symbols that you need, obviously, to complete it. Let's try this again, though. Still didn't get the symbols I needed. So obviously you're going to want to try to get better dice that will increase the chances of getting these symbols here. And some of the dice will do a better job of getting these symbols here. So quickly, let me grab the red initiate dice to basically do an example of that. Not the blue dice, just the red ones. Okay, so now, let's say I didn't have 2 white dice. Let's say I had a red initiate die and a novice die instead. Let's try this again. And would you look at that? I got one of the symbols I needed to complete the challenge. Right there. Nice, right? So there's obviously more of these particular symbol on this dice, which basically increases your chances of getting the focus symbol. There's also the spirit symbol on here too, but there's 2 of the focus on here, and then of course there's still a wild on here as well. So there's 3 chances that you'll get this dice, this taken care of, if you have the red initiate dice for this particular challenge. And at this time, I also happen to roll the other one, so now not only do I complete the challenge, but I complete it in style. But before I can finish, I still need to take care of this X. So I thankfully have another shell nearby, so we'll put that on my shell shield. And now I've got 3 shells on my shell shield, and I completed this tournament, this challenge, and now I get to put it under my player board here, and I get to increase my focus by 2. That is how the challenges are going to work. So now you should understand at least a little bit on how challenges are going to work. So for the next video, let's talk about how the battle system for the monsters work.